What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Edwina and this is Versicolor Closet, where we love all things colorful. So I was recently on TikTok and I saw this trend of people sharing things that they're too old for. And I was like, this would be a good concept for a video. So I noted it down and I started writing some things, and I feel like everything that I wrote down has to do more so with boundaries and communication. So this is definitely gonna be a good video, especially for those of you that are growing in your personal development and that are learning to say no, that are learning about boundaries. So I'm super excited to share this video with you guys, and I can't wait to continue this conversation in the comments because I know it's gonna be a good one. So without any further ado, let's get into today's video. So the first thing I think I'm too old for is guilt trips. You ever had a situation where someone was trying to emotionally manipulate you by making you feel guilty for whatever decision you've made, or whatever it is that you've decided on, and somebody just wanted you to do something that would benefit them? These type of situations, I feel like they typically happen with people that are like authority figures. Like, it could be your parents, it could be like a boss, it could be like a church leader, or anything like that, right? So I was having a conversation with someone who, of course, was an authority figure, and they asked me to go somewhere, someplace that I was fully uninterested. It was an event that I didn't want to attend. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be there. And their response was somewhere along the lines of, okay, it's okay if you don't go, I'll deal with the consequences, or something like that, right? And of course, I don't want to go into too much detail or whatever, but I feel like when someone does that, they may not even realize that they're doing it, or perhaps they do realize, and subconsciously they know that if they do this little bit of guilt trip, then you'll feel bad and then you'll change your mind. Except I'm too grown now. That it's not gonna work. It's not going to work. There's nothing you could do to make me do something that I don't want to do. And it's different, let's say if you're having a conversation with a friend and your original stance on something was no, but they're trying to get you, oh, come on, girl, let's go with me. And you'll be like, okay, no problem, I'll go. You could do that if it's not violating a personal boundary that you've had for yourself. But if you're clear on a reason why you don't want to do something or go someplace, and someone is feeling like you should do it because it's going to benefit them, it doesn't make sense to say yes to someone at the expense of saying no to yourself. I feel like the moment I grasped that concept in my late 20s and early 30s, it was a game changer. Because when the Bible talks about being a cheerful giver, you shouldn't be giving of your time, of yourself, of your heart, your money, or anything if it's not something you're doing out of the goodness of your heart, out of a pure desire of doing the thing that you're doing. Because what happens is, the moment that you say yes and you really meant no, then not only are you saying no to yourself, but now you're resenting the person because you feel like they forced you to do something that you didn't want to do. So it's not up to somebody else outside of yourself to convince you to hold up to your own boundaries. If you said no, they will be all right. And I can guarantee you, a lot of the times that we stand our grounds and we're like, if I already said I'm not doing this, I'm not doing it, life goes on. You'd be surprised how everything just flows smoothly. But a lot of times we're spending time resenting the people. Meanwhile, we're the problem. Because if we're the ones who said yes, then you can be mad at the other person because their guilt trip and emotional manipulation made you say yes. That's on you. That's not on them. You're the one who was not respecting yourself the same way you respect others. Because we have this tendency, and I noticed this with myself in a lot of different ways, where if we made a promise to someone else, or we're 100% gonna keep it because it's part of our character. We know that our yes means yes and our no means no. So therefore, if I said yes to someone, then I'm going to be there. Except when it's time to say yes to yourself. You made an appointment with yourself, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. You told yourself you're gonna do this and you're not doing it. But you would never do that to somebody else. So it's like, Let's level up the way that we treat ourselves, because if I can respect other people and if I can love other people to the point that I'm gonna hold up my word, then I need to do the same thing with myself. If you tell yourself you're gonna get up early to go, take a walk, do it. And that's one of the things I struggle with, because listen, exercising is just, I don't know, it's not about my ministry. If I had an appointment with somebody, I would have gotten up. So this is a message to y'all, and it's a message to me, like the same respect that you extend to others, extend it to yourself. The second thing I'm too old for is lying to justify why I'm saying no to something. You'd be surprised how many people that I see do this till this day. And I'm like, but you're grown. Like, when people say like no is a complete sentence, why is it that we know this in theory, but we don't know it when it's time to be practical? If someone invites you to something and you're unable to go, not necessarily because you have prior engagement, but simply because you don't feel like it. Let's say it was Friday night and you had decided that on Friday nights you're going to rest and somebody's inviting you to go to the club and you're just not about that life. You don't necessarily owe them an explanation as to why you're not going to be there. Practice saying thank you so much for the invite, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it. And then another thing with that, stop apologizing. We apologize so much that when we truly mean like an apology, nobody's going to believe us, because we're just throwing sorries left and right for nothingness. And I'm not about that life. If I tell you I'm sorry, you better believe I'm sorry, because I'm not just going to say sorry because, oh, I'm so sorry, I want to ask you a question. Why are you sorry? You're just asking a question. Like, let it come out. It's okay to ask a question, and it's okay to expect the answer to be either yes or no. Because sometimes people feel like the moment they ask, you're obligated to say yes. And it does not work that way, because you have the freedom to ask and I have the freedom to answer. And my answer, of course, should be genuine. So if it's a genuine yes, let it be a genuine yes. But if it's a no, then let it be a no. Like, aren't we grown? Let's start acting like it, okay? The third thing I want to say I'm too grown for is accepting poor service because I don't want to seem pushy or over the top. How many times have you gone to the nail salon, they did your nails, you didn't really like it, and you're just like, I'll just deal with it? How many times have you been to a restaurant, you ordered food, they brought it out to you and it's cold or it's not what you wanted, and then you're just like, okay, I'll just keep it. And it's like, why would we do that? Why do we do that? We're not in the year of our Lord 2023, not anymore. We are absolutely not doing that, because saying that you are getting poor service is not something that has to be rude in the delivery, especially for something that you're paying for. You want to get the quality of service that is due to you. Like, you're doing your part by paying, then they have to do their part by delivering the service that you're paying for. If the quality is not good, you're supposed to speak up. But I don't know where we learned it. It's like subconsciously, we just know that if we say something, then we're going to seem like we're doing too much. So we just have to accept the bare minimum. Where's that written? What verse in the Bible is that? Because I ain't never read it. It's unacceptable. We have to stop doing this to ourselves, because at the end of the day, you end up being mad at yourself because you know deep down you should have said something, but you didn't want to do the most. And it's like, you can find a nice way of saying, ma'am, can you file this nail this way, because I see that you did it a little round. I wanted it more square. They have to fix it. It's not what you want. They brought you, water, and the cup is dirty. What, are you just gonna drink dirty water? No. Excuse me, miss, may I have another cup? This one is, has a little spot or something. Like, I think part of the issue is that we don't seem to have language to communicate some of the things that we want to communicate. And it might be best to familiarize yourself with the type of language that you need in order to express some of the things you need to express. And I think for me, that came with like listening to different types of podcasts, reading books like Boundaries. I have a couple books that I enjoy with boundaries, and that kind of led me to having this type of mindset. And I will be sure to link them in the description box for you guys. But one of them is Boundaries by Hold on. One of them is this book. It is called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. This is so good. The subtitle says When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life. This is a really, really good book. I finished reading it and I highlighted so much of it. And I feel like it's one of those books that you can go back to over and over again. I did a video on it, I want to say maybe almost 2 years ago. So I'll be sure to link that video for you guys. I would also recommend this book. It's Set Boundaries and Find Peace. It's a guide to reclaiming yourself. It's by this Black female therapist called Nedra. So you guys should definitely check this out. I haven't finished reading this one, but it's one of those books that you can like read one part. Like it's broken down in different sections. Like here's a section on how to handle boundaries at work versus boundaries with family versus boundaries with friends, you know? So if you're like dealing with a particular situation, let's say you're a wife that has issues with your mother-in-law, it has literal like specific language for how you can communicate some of the boundaries that you're trying to set. The fourth thing that I'm too grown for is people pleasing. And the way that this manifested for me in my younger years was actually in the way that I behaved. I found that I would do what is expected of me, even if it wasn't communicated. Like even if no one said, Edwina, you should do this, I already know that's what you expect of me, and I'm going to do it because not only would it be pleasing you, but it also would get me praised for being well behaved. You have to do some really good self-awareness work to realize the depth of that one, because on the surface, it doesn't seem like a bad thing because you're well behaved, you have a good reputation for doing what you're told, until you become an adult and you realize that you don't even realize what the sound of your voice is like. You don't even realize what decisions you should make because you've always waited for somebody else to tell you what you should do. Have we not read Galatians 1:10? For am I seeking the approval of men or of God? Because if I were seeking the approval of men, I would not be a servant of Christ. It's black on white. It's in the word. And I think sometimes us Christians too, we fall for these type of like behaving patterns because we think it's the Christian way to be. And then the Bible tells us that we're not supposed to be pleasing other people. Because if I'm pleasing God, then I should be doing the things that is according to the purpose of my life. I should be doing the things that I am called to do, not what would make you feel good because I'm trying to look good in your eyes, right? Part of that people pleasing also showed itself up in my life with being like passive aggressive. I never knew the language to communicate my boundaries. And I also, you know, especially when you grew up with the mindset of like talking back is not, you know, a good thing. So you're always trying to like restrict yourself and you don't want to speak up. So because of that, you subconsciously like expect people to know not to even ask you certain things. And in the asking, you're offended. And then you do the thing and then you resent them for even asking you. Or you don't do it, but you can't even verbalize why you don't want to do it, why you can't do it, why you should not do it. And it's just a recipe for disaster because not only are your expectations not clear, you're also creating like a rift in your relationships because people don't know what you're thinking because you don't want to speak up, you don't know how to speak up, and you're just like passively like having an attitude. Let's say your husband didn't take the trash out, right? And this happens with a lot of us women because naturally we're like, if I'm the woman of the house, right? And I see the trash needs to be taken out and you're the man of the house. Don't you also see the trash needing to be taken out? Why do I then have to tell you to take the trash out? So what do? We don't communicate that we're upset that the trash is not taken out. We don't communicate that we're expecting the trash to be taken out on a daily basis or whatever it is that our expectation is. And then we end up performing the task. And then now we're mad because we had to perform it because the other person wasn't, you know, a mind reader and then just read between the lines to just like do the things that we expect them to do. And I had that mindset for the longest. And I'm like, I just knew if I was married in my 20s, I would have been divorced because there's just no way that you can be able to sustain relationships like healthy relationships, and this even goes for friendships. Like there's no way to sustain healthy relationships and friendships without you communicating what it is that you need from that person and without them doing the same. Because if you don't know what you should do, then when you don't do it, there shouldn't be a disagreement and arguing back and forth because I didn't know what was expected. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned by reading books on boundaries, because I had to figure out which parts of it was somebody else's issue and which part of it was me. Because another thing is, even with setting boundaries, is it really a boundary if you're setting it in your head and it's not being communicated to anybody? Like if you don't communicate it, how is somebody able to know what you will and will not accept? Like the responsibility for them to respect your boundary is on them, but the responsibility for you to set and communicate that boundary is on you. So if somebody violates your boundary, then it's also on you to decide how you're going to proceed as a result of them breaking said boundary. But if they never knew and you just resent them because they're not respecting it, like nobody's gonna read your mind, sis. Like we have to stop doing that, because it's going to help with our own peace of mind. If I need you to do better, I have to tell you what better looks like for me. Because you might feel like you're improving by doing XYZ, but I was expecting you to do ABC. And in the miscommunication, none of us, like either of us, is happy. So yeah, that's definitely something that I left in my 20s. And once you know yourself and you start learning these things, I feel like relationships just look completely different for you, because you can't accept certain things anymore. It's like once you know, and you can't accept just the bare minimum only because it's going to make somebody else uncomfortable. I cannot make you comfortable at the expense of me, at the expense of my peace. And I think this is, again, a concept that is misconstrued in the Christian space, because we feel like we have to be humble and be less to make other people, to praise other people, or to put other people in first place. But it's a misunderstanding of scriptures. I think sometimes we have to realize that we cannot give of anything that we don't have. Even when God is telling us to love others, he tells us to love them as much as we love ourselves. So if we don't love ourselves first, how are we able to know how to love others well? Food for thought. The fifth thing that I am too old for is ingesting negative news or negativity in general for the sake of being informed. Man, let me tell you something. I am the queen of muting, blocking, unfollowing on social media for the sake of keeping my peace. I think sometimes we, especially when it comes to the news, we feel like if we don't listen to the news, then we'll be uninformed. But what exactly did being informed do for you? Because so many of us are out here walking around with stress and anxiety and operating from a place of fear because we've ingested so much negative news that, let's say somebody invites you to go on a trip, you're like, oh my gosh, people get kidnapped. You filter all of your thoughts through the lens of negativity because you've only made space for negative news. So therefore, all of your decisions are based off of fear. And it's like, we gotta stop doing that to ourselves. Can you be informed? Yes. But do you need to spend hours watching the news? Like, when's the last time you watched the news and found something positive? I'm not telling everybody to just be fully unaware because, I mean, especially nowadays, if you're on social media, like even if you don't watch the regular news on TV, if you're on social media, you're going to know what's going on in the world. But for those of us that are in need of maintaining our peace, or like anxiety is a big deal for you and you need to set boundaries around like what you're ingesting, you need to turn off the news. You need to unfollow those pages that tend to like just share negative things. And even with sometimes friends and family, I feel like I even had to like mute some people. I don't know if this happens with everyone, but like lately, I feel in the Haitian community specifically, since that's the one I'm a part of, so of course I'm gonna feel like it's just them, but people have become so desensitized to death and like graphic images that no matter what happens, everybody is like sharing it on the internet, sharing it in a WhatsApp group. And it's like, these are graphic images. When you go to bed at night, you start having dreams about these things. Like, if someone gets decapitated, I don't want to see that. Like, don't just overshare certain things because you don't know how that's going to affect other people. Like, people be sharing dead bodies. There was a video that was going around of some Haitian cops that were being murdered. Thank God I didn't get to see it and deleted it before I could watch. But people were just sharing it and sharing it and sharing it. And I'm like, we have to be careful what we're listening to. We have to be careful what we're watching. We just have to be careful because those things, they do have an impact on us. I personally can't deal with it. I think I can find out about somebody being murdered without watching the murder happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's something that social media has made us desensitized to. And I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not just the Haitian community, but I've seen it a lot with them. But it's like, we have got to stop sharing certain things because it's not good for us, and it's definitely not good for the people that we're sharing it with. So those are the 5 things that I am too old for. I feel like this was a fun video to film, and of course this one was mostly gravitated towards like boundaries and communication, but I feel like this could be a series. I don't know, maybe about friendships, maybe about self-care. If you don't want to deal with like cheap things and you want like pricier things, like we could make like a fashion version, you know, things that you're too old for that you're no longer buying, things like that. I like these types of fun videos, and I'm excited to make more of them. So I'm looking forward to you guys' response. Let me know in the comments, what are you too old for? What are you too grown for that you no longer have time for? Okay, so comment below, let me know. And if I see that you guys really enjoy this type of video, then I'll be sure to make more of it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time in another one. Bye guys.